If you walk along an American beach in the 1970s, you'll notice something almost unbelievable today. Nearly everyone looks healthy and thin. But here's the strange part. They weren't dieting, they weren't exercising on purpose, and they definitely weren't obsessed with fitness. So what changed? Because the answer might explain why modern life makes staying healthy so difficult. "Children, when I was young," she said, "the world moved differently. Not slower exactly, just simpler. If you walked along an American beach or through a busy city street in the 1970s, something would catch your eye right away. People were thin. Not because they were trying to be heroes of discipline, but because life itself quietly guided them that way." She pointed toward the dusty road outside the house. Back then, people walked everywhere. Kids biked to school, sometimes miles away, laughing with their friends along the road. Nobody called it exercise. It was simply how you reached the places you needed to go. Food was different too, Grandma continued. Sodas were small, burgers were modest, and dinner plates were only 9 inches wide. You ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner, nothing in between. If a child tried to grab a snack, their mother would say, "Put that down, you'll ruin your supper." Most meals were cooked at home, real ingredients, meat, potatoes, vegetables, butter. When your mother made soup, it was truly soup, not something designed in a laboratory to keep you eating forever. And when people got bored, they didn't stare at glowing screens. They ran outside. They played until the streetlights came on and the night sky told them it was time to sleep. The youngest grandchild asked quietly, "So everyone stayed healthy?" "No, dear, life wasn't perfect, but the world itself helped people live in balance. The food, the work, the movement, it all worked together like pieces of a quiet machine." She looked far down the road as the wind rustled the trees. But then, little by little, the world began to change. At first, no one noticed. New factories began turning corn into a strange sweet syrup. It was cheaper than sugar, so companies started pouring it into sodas, breads, sauces, almost everything. Food became sweeter, but in a way that fooled the body. People would eat and drink, yet their stomachs never quite felt the signal to stop. Then the portions began growing. The soda cups became bigger, burgers grew thicker, plates stretched wider on the dinner table. Soon a single meal carried more food than an entire day once held. And something else happened. People started eating all the time, not just meals anymore. Snacks between snacks. A cookie here, a bag of chips there. The old quiet spaces between meals disappeared, and the body never got the chance to rest. The wind moved through the trees again. Work changed too, she said. Many jobs moved from fields to factories to desks and chairs. Children stopped walking to school because cars waited outside the door. Remote controls appeared, then computers, then phones that could keep a person sitting for hours without even noticing. One of the grandchildren frowned. Did people want that to happen? No, sweetheart. Nobody planned it like a villain in a story. Every change was called convenience. A bigger drink for a better price, a faster way to travel, entertainment without leaving your chair. But convenience can be a quiet magician. It slowly removes every small effort from life until the body forgets how much it once moved, how naturally it once balanced itself. The porch light flickered on above them. And by the time people realized what had happened, the world around them had already become a place where staying healthy required fighting against everything. Fighting against everything. By the time people noticed, food was everywhere. Cheap, sweet, salty, and ready at every corner. Restaurants learned how to mix sugar, fat, and salt in just the right way so your brain would whisper, just one more bite, and one more, and one more. In the old days, a meal had a natural ending. Your body would quietly say, that's enough. But these new foods were clever. They kept the signal from arriving. Asked, why didn't people just stop eating them? Because the world had changed around them. When food became the cheapest thing to buy, people bought more of it. When work became sitting, bodies stopped burning the energy they once used every day. A night cricket chirped nearby. And when cigarettes disappeared, which was a good thing, mind you, many people lost the habit that once kept their hunger quiet between meals. The hands still wanted something to hold, the mouth still wanted something to do, and food was always there, waiting. So you see, people didn't suddenly lose their strength or discipline. The path simply changed beneath their feet. Once, the road of everyday life naturally led toward balance. But over time, the road was rebuilt step by step until the easiest direction led somewhere else entirely. The strange part is, it happened so gradually that most people never saw the moment it truly began. And the story of how the world changed like that is still unfolding today. Soon, food companies hired scientists, real scientists, to study the human tongue and brain. They searched for something they called the bliss point, the perfect mix of sugar, salt, and fat that would make a person crave another bite before they even finished the first. Imagine that, children, not farmers growing food to fill hungry bellies, but laboratories designing flavors to keep people eating. And while food was becoming more powerful, life outside the kitchen was becoming easier. Cars replaced walking, elevators replaced stairs, machines washed clothes, cleaned floors, and even answered questions. She smiled at them knowingly. The world was removing effort from every corner of life. But that sounds like a good thing. In many ways, it was. Life became safer, faster, and more comfortable. But comfort has a quiet price. When every task becomes effortless, the body slowly forgets the work it was built to do. In the old days, you didn't schedule exercise. Life itself was exercise. You carried groceries, chopped wood, scrubbed floors, walked to the store, chased friends through fields until sunset. Your body stayed balanced without you thinking about it. So people didn't notice the change? Not at first. Each new invention seemed harmless. A bigger drink here, a quicker meal there, a screen to keep you entertained a little longer at night. But when thousands of tiny changes happen over 50 years, they can reshape an entire world. And that is why the old beach photographs look so different today. Not because the people back then were better, but because the world around them had not yet learned how to tempt them every minute of the day. And the real question, children, is what happens to a world once it realizes what it has built? People often think the problem is themselves. They believe they are weak, that they lack discipline, that something inside them is broken. But the truth is much bigger than that. The world we build shapes the lives we live. When a world makes movement natural, people move. When food is simple, people stop when they're full. When life has rhythm, work, play, play, rest, the body follows that rhythm. But when a world is built to keep people sitting, snacking, and consuming all the time, even the strongest person must fight every single day just to stay balanced. The wind rustled the trees like a quiet whisper of agreement. So remember this. Health is not only about willpower, it is about the choices we make as families, communities, and societies. The environments we create today will shape the bodies and lives of tomorrow. If we want healthier lives, we must build healthier worlds, ones that make good habits easy, movement natural, and food honest again. So the lesson is, we should change the world around us? Yes, child, because when the environment supports you, doing the right thing stops feeling like a battle. Is the secret people forgot for 50 years, but the one your generation still has time to remember. If this story opened your eyes, leave a like and share it with someone who still believes health is only about willpower. You see, children, she said softly, when people look back at the 1970s, they often think life was harder. In many ways, it was. Cars broke down more often, houses were smaller, and people had fewer gadgets to make life easy. But strangely enough, those little inconveniences were quietly protecting people's health. Take grocery shopping, for example. In the old days, families usually went to the store once or twice a week. You bought what you needed, and that was it. If you ran out of snacks on Wednesday, well, you simply waited until the next shopping trip. No late-night snack runs? Not unless you wanted to drive across town to a store that probably closed before sunset anyway. And when people did buy snacks, Grandma continued, they were special treats, maybe a pie cooling on the kitchen counter or cookies baked on a Sunday afternoon. But they weren't everywhere like they are today, at gas stations, office desks, school hallways, and every checkout counter. Back then, if you wanted a snack, you often had to make it yourself, and when something requires effort, you naturally eat it less often. Another thing people forget, she continued, is how social life worked. Families visited neighbors, children knocked on doors asking friends to come outside, and people spent evenings walking around their neighborhoods. You know how today people text their friends? Back then, you walked to their house and knocked. And if your friend wasn't home, you kept walking until you found someone who was. That meant hours of walking without thinking about it. No step counters, no fitness watches, just life happening the way it always had. Even simple errands meant moving your body. Need milk? Walk to the corner store. Want to call a friend? Walk to the telephone on the wall and stand there talking for an hour. Why stand? Because the cord was short. But slowly, things began to change. Supermarkets got bigger, fast food restaurants appeared on every highway. Vending machines started showing up in schools and offices. At first, people loved the convenience. Imagine being able to grab a hot meal in minutes instead of cooking. It felt like the future had finally arrived. But convenience is a little like sugar in coffee. A little bit makes life sweeter. Too much changes the flavor of everything. By the 1980s and 1990s, food companies had discovered something powerful. They learned that if you combined sugar, salt, and fat in the right way, people's brains would crave the food again and again. Not because people were weak, but because the human brain is wired to love those flavors. For thousands of years, those tastes meant survival. But once companies learned how to concentrate those flavors, food stopped behaving like food. The youngest child looked confused. What do you mean? Real food tells your body when to stop eating. Engineered food whispers the opposite. Then came something else that changed everything: screens. Television grew bigger, then came cable, then computers, then video games, and eventually the little glowing rectangles everyone carries in their pockets. With every new screen, people moved a little less. Children who once ran through neighborhoods began spending afternoons indoors. Adults who once walked after dinner began watching shows late into the night. And when you sit longer, you often snack more. But here's the interesting thing, Grandma added. Even with all those changes, many people still believed the problem was simply personal discipline. They were told to eat less and move more. That sounds reasonable. It does, but imagine swimming against a powerful river current every single day. That's what modern life became for many people. When everything around you encourages sitting, snacking, and convenience, staying healthy becomes an uphill battle. In 1970, the river flowed in the opposite direction. The environment quietly pushed people toward movement and moderation. And that is why those old beach pictures look so different. But here is the hopeful part of the story. Humans built this modern world, and if humans built it, humans can rebuild it. If this story reminded you of something important, share it with someone you care about. And don't forget to like the video so more people can hear Grandma's lesson.